From the downright bizarre to the mystifying, the Bible hosts an array of creatures that could perplex even the most devout Sunday school teacher. Let's embark on a journey to uncover some of the most astonishing critters the good book has to offer. Here we go. 1. The Ophanim, mentioned in the Bible, are a fascinating and unique class of angels, particularly noted in the book of Ezekiel. They are part of the Jewish angelic hierarchy and are often associated with the Merkabah, or God's chariot, which is described in the visions of the prophet Ezekiel. The name Ophanim is derived from the Hebrew word ophan, which means wheels, reflecting their representation in the biblical text. In Ezekiel 1:15-21, the Ophanim are described in a vision as wheels within wheels, covered with eyes all around. These wheels are depicted as moving in conjunction with the living creatures, cherubim, that carry the throne of God, indicating that they are capable of moving in any direction without turning. The presence of eyes all around the wheels suggests an all-seeing nature, symbolizing the omnipresence and omniscience of God. The Ophanim are considered to be among the highest orders of angels, second only to the Hayot HaKodesh, the holy living creatures, in terms of closeness to God. They are depicted as being involved in the direct service of God, particularly in relation to God's throne and presence. Their appearance and role underscore themes of divine authority, majesty, and the mysterious nature of God's ways. 2. The behemoth is a creature mentioned in the Bible, specifically in the book of Job, which is one of the oldest books in the biblical scriptures. Job 40:15-24 provides a detailed description of the behemoth, presenting it as a powerful and magnificent beast that is beyond human control. The passage portrays the behemoth as having strength in its hips, power in the muscles of its belly, a tail like a cedar tree, and bones as strong as bronze or iron. It is described as the first of the works of God, suggesting its primacy in creation and possibly its representation as a symbol of God's power in the marvels of His creation. The behemoth's exact identity has been the subject of much speculation and interpretation over the centuries. Some traditional Jewish texts consider it to be a mythological creature, representing chaos and untamed nature that only God can control. In Christian interpretations, the behemoth is sometimes seen as a symbol of God's power over even the most formidable creatures on earth, and as a demonstration of His sovereignty over all creation. Scholars and theologians have proposed various real-world animals as possible inspirations for the behemoth, including the hippopotamus, elephant, and rhinoceros, due to some of the physical attributes described in the text. However, the exact nature of the behemoth remains a topic of debate, with some viewing it as a creature of mythology or as a symbol rather than a specific historical animal. The behemoth's mention in the book of Job serves to underscore the themes of the book, highlighting the limitations of human understanding and the vastness of God's creation. 3. The Leviathan is a formidable creature mentioned in the Bible, most notably in the book of Job, Psalms, and Isaiah. It is depicted as a powerful and fearsome sea monster, embodying chaos and representing God's uncontrollable and indomitable creation. The descriptions of the Leviathan in the Bible emphasize its strength and the impossibility of any human or mortal being subduing it, highlighting the majesty and supremacy of God over even the most terrifying forces of nature. In Job 41, the Leviathan is described in great detail, with attributes that include fearsome teeth, scales that are close together and cannot be penetrated, and the ability to emit smoke and fire from its nostrils, making it seem like a creature straight out of a myth or legend. This vivid description serves to illustrate the power and mystery of God's creations and the futility of human attempts to control or understand all aspects of the natural world. Psalms 74:14 and 104:26 refer to the Leviathan in contexts that celebrate God's power and mastery over the creature, using it as a symbol of God's ability to create and destroy. Isaiah 27:1 speaks of the Lord's future triumph over the Leviathan, symbolizing the ultimate victory of God over chaos and evil. The Leviathan has been interpreted in various ways throughout Jewish and Christian traditions. In some Jewish texts, it is seen as a real creature that will be slain and served at a feast for the righteous in the time to come, symbolizing the eradication of evil. In Christian symbolism, the Leviathan can represent Satan or the forces of evil that will be defeated by God's power. 4. The first beast in the book of Revelation also known as the Apocalypse, is introduced in Revelation 13 to 1:110. This beast is described as rising out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, with 10 crowns on its horns, and on each head a blasphemous name. The beast is depicted as resembling a leopard, with feet like those of a bear and a mouth like that of a lion. The dragon, identified in Revelation as Satan, gives the beast its power, throne, and great authority. This first beast is often interpreted as symbolizing political power and authority that opposes God. It represents oppressive governments or systems that demand allegiance and worship, substituting divine authority with earthly, corrupt power. The beast's blasphemy and demand for worship are seen as direct challenges to God's sovereignty. The imagery of the beast incorporates elements from the book of Daniel, where various beasts also symbolize empires and kings that rise and fall over the ages. In Revelation, the beast's characteristics suggest a composite of these empires, indicating its extensive power and influence. The book of Revelation uses rich symbolic language to communicate its messages, and the first beast is a key figure in its prophecy. It is part of a larger narrative that includes battles between good and evil, judgments, and the ultimate triumph of God's kingdom. 5. The second beast in the book of Revelation is introduced in Revelation 13:11-18. This beast emerges from the earth, contrasting with the first beast that rises from the sea. The second beast is described as having 2 horns like a lamb, but speaking like a dragon, which signifies a deceptive nature, appearing benign or Christ-like, but speaking with the authority of Satan. Its primary role is to promote the worship of the first beast and to deceive the inhabitants of the earth through miraculous signs, which it is allowed to perform in the presence of the first beast. One of the most notable actions of the second beast is causing all people, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or forehead. Without this mark, no one can buy or sell. This mark is famously known as the mark of the beast, and it is associated with the number 666, referred to as the number of the beast or the number of a man in Revelation 13:18. The second beast is often interpreted as representing false prophets, religious deception, or corrupt religious authority that works in conjunction with political power, symbolized by the first beast, to lead people away from the truth of God. It symbolizes the dangers of idolatry and the seductive power of false miracles and teachings that could lead believers astray. Together, the first and second beasts in Revelation represent a dual threat of political and religious persecution and deception, challenging the faithfulness of believers and posing a significant obstacle to worshiping God freely and truthfully. 6. Dragons. The term dragon appears in various passages. In the Bible, dragons are often symbolic of chaos, evil, or opposition to God. The imagery of dragons can be found in both the Old and New Testaments, serving different symbolic purposes depending on the context. In the Old Testament, dragon, Hebrew, nin, tanin, may refer to sea monsters or large serpents, and is used metaphorically to represent chaos and opposition to God. For example, Isaiah 27:1 describes God's judgment on Leviathan, a twisting serpent or dragon that symbolizes chaos and evil. Ezekiel 29:3 speaks of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, as a great dragon lying in the rivers, symbolizing his power and the threat he posed to Israel. These references are often poetic and use the imagery of dragons to convey the power and malevolence of various enemies of God and his people. In the New Testament, the dragon takes on a more defined role as a symbol of Satan or the devil, especially in the book of Revelation. Revelation 12:3-9 describes a great red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns, which is identified as Satan. This dragon attempts to devour the child of a woman clothed with the sun, but is ultimately defeated and thrown down to the earth. The dragon's pursuit of the woman and her offspring symbolizes Satan's opposition to God's plans and his persecution of God's people. The dragon imagery in Revelation is rich with symbolic meaning, representing the cosmic battle between good and evil and the ultimate triumph of God over Satan. 7. The cockatrice, a mythical creature often depicted as a 2-legged dragon or serpent with a rooster's head, is mentioned in some translations of the Bible, particularly in older versions like the King James Version, KJV. The term cockatrice is used to translate a Hebrew word found in a few passages in the Old Testament where it is associated with danger, destruction, and venomous power. The cockatrice is mentioned in the following passages in the KJV. Isaiah 11:8. This verse speaks of a peaceful kingdom where a child can play near the hole of a cockatrice without harm, symbolizing the end of enmity and the establishment of peace. Isaiah 14:29. This passage warns not to rejoice because the rod of one's oppressor is broken, for from the serpent's root will come forth a cockatrice, and its fruit will be a fiery flying serpent, symbolizing the rise of a new and more dangerous threat. Isaiah 59:5. It describes wicked people as hatching cockatrices' eggs and weaving spiders' webs, indicating that their actions bring forth death and deceit. Jeremiah 8:17. God declares that he will send serpents and cockatrices among the people, which cannot be charmed, as a form of judgment. In these passages, the cockatrice symbolizes deadly threats and the consequences of evil or rebellion against God. The imagery of a venomous creature that can kill with a glance or whose presence brings danger serves to illustrate the potent nature of sin, the dangers of turning away from God, and the judgment that can result from such actions. In modern translations of the Bible, the term cockatrice is often replaced with viper or another type of venomous snake, reflecting a more accurate understanding of the Hebrew text and the natural fauna of the region. The shift in translation acknowledges that the original text likely referred to real dangerous animals known to the ancient Israelites, rather than mythical creatures. Now that we have covered the craziest creatures in the Bible, let's go into a more familiar topic: angels. Although we bet you didn't know the actual accurate description of angels in the Bible, it is not what you'd expect. Click on this video now to learn more. We promise you'll find some new knowledge that will not only intrigue you, but teach you a thing or two you didn't know about the Bible. Thanks for watching. Please let us know your thoughts in the comments section. Bible Short Stories, signing off.